Hello, friends. I am Cindiola. I'm here at Sacred Garden Yoga. Today is November 11th, 11/11. So I figured it would be an auspicious day to come on here. First of all, just to say thank you and to express my gratitude and appreciation for each one of you. November is always a special time of year for us here because November of 2003 is when we first opened up our doors. So this year we are celebrating our 19th year anniversary this month. I always say that Sacred Garden Yoga is my firstborn, my first child. Of course, I have a human child, my son who's 17 years old, and both of them, this child here of Sacred Garden Yoga and both my human child, have provided so much opportunity for growth. So many growing pains that we all go through, but how we realize what a necessity that is in our lives to go through these different seasons of changes. And 19 years in something will take you through so many ebbs and flows and seasons and changes. And that's one of the things that I wanted to come on here and talk about today too, especially, talking about this autumn time, this November season that we're in, and how it brings with it a sense of reflection, introspection, wonderment, reverence. We see what nature is going through right now, especially in the northern hemisphere, where nature is in the process of withdrawing herself from life and from growth in preparation for hibernation, so that she can take a moment of respite for when springtime comes. There will be new growth and new possibilities. And we're always going through those seasons and changes in our lives. And what our yoga practice teaches us is how to navigate through those. The ancient sages and saints realized that we humans have a hard time with change, that we tend to get addicted and attached to things. And so when things begin to shift and move within the different seasons of our growth and expansion through the seasons of death and rebirth, that the sages and the saints wanted to give us a system to help us move through that without losing ourselves. And what November teaches us is the process of the shedding, of the death cycle that we often must go through. And when we go through those death cycles, how it can be scary, that we have to learn how to let go of our addictions and our attachments, even if it's the attachments that we have toward our bodies, toward our aging bodies, toward people leaving our lives, relationships ending, jobs ending. That's usually the harder part of the death and rebirth. Like the rebirth usually feels good, but it's the death cycle that challenges us. And we need a practice, like when we have a practice or a discipline that teaches us that there's also a part of us that's very eternal, that's anchored in truth. When big things happen, and right now there are big things happening, especially outside of us in the collective. We're in the midst of an election, and a lot of us feel that there's so much movement going on outside of us. And yes, sometimes we can't control that, but what we can control is how we are choosing to respond to those things. How are we choosing to show up? Are we deciding to look at the good, to look at the possibility, to focus on what is working and what is right? Or are we only focusing on the destruction, on what's wrong and how terrible people are? You could look through life through that lens, but it's certainly going to make your life more constricted and smaller. This is going to make you feel that way too. So I think one of the biggest challenges that we have when we're going through the big changes or a death process or a dissolution process is realizing that there's still a lot of good out there, that there are good people out there, that even through our pain and suffering, that pain and suffering is actually just trying to align us to our highest destination. And so we're always being divinely guided if we choose to look at life that way. And it is just all a matter of how we're choosing or where we're choosing to put our focus on, right? So November, this season, Scorpio season too, specifically, because Scorpio season tends to reveal and show to us things that are normally hidden. When the veils are thin, like right now, we just had a Halloween, November 1st, where the veil was particularly thin. And what does that mean exactly when the veil thins? Well, it's when we're in this liminal space of death and life. Because nature is, as I said, it's in the process of withdrawing, but we're still in a harvesting season. And so there's death and then there is life that is fully present right now. And this death, life presence in liminal space creates a portal for our psychic awareness to be more potent. So we can begin to ask ourselves these bigger questions and reflect upon what is meaningful to us, to focus on where we want to grow, to bring our attention to what our possibilities are. So, if you are caught right now in a death cycle and you're not feeling so great, because I know, believe me, I understand that those moments can feel hard and they can feel intense. But know that during those cycles that you're also being held and you're being nurtured. And that, yes, on the other side of that, when the springtime comes, like when the springtime of our own life comes, when we cycle back into that there's something beautiful that's there. But we had to go through this process of shedding what's old or releasing attachments, undoing addictions, relationships undoing, and just other parts of our lives that might temporarily have to fall apart. It's like the breaking open that happens before the breakthrough. And then that leaves room for your next story, because we're always creating a story for ourselves, right? So the question is, what story do I want to birth next? And how can I show up in my life that's going to feed and nurture that new seed, that new story? And know also that I am totally cheering you on and that you've got this. You can do this. You have the strength and the genius to navigate this. All right. I love you dearly. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'll see you next time.